everyone. You can have a seat. Cyfrica, hope you had a good time having lunch. So we'll be discussing on protecting critical business aspects from the growing ransomware. And before we start, I will just give my panelists the opportunity to just introduce themselves briefly for 60 seconds, starting with Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Philip. My name is Solomon Soka. I am from Ethiopia. I am Member of Parliament and Deputy Director General for Information Network Security Administration, or INSA. I have been in ICT industry for the past more than a decade and a half. I was a college teacher, I was technical, and I'm now in a leadership position in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Abbah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abbah Sambo Usman from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Nigeria. I currently head the Advanced Fee Fraud section at the Lagos Zonal Command. Prior to this, about 4 weeks ago, I was heading the cybercrime section at the EFCC headquarters, and as well, I've headed cybercrime section at the EFCC Abuja Zonal Command. Primarily, we focus on investigation of cases relating to cybercrime, what we commonly call Yahoo or 419. Gather intelligence on them, conduct the necessary raids, gather all the evidence, and prosecute them before courts of law. I also am a trainer. We train our young cadets on aspects relating to surveillance, cybercrime investigation, and how to testify in court. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. David?
Good afternoon. My name is Kitonga. I look after cybersecurity for Jamii Telecom.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Philip Aiwekhoe. I've been involved in a lot of digital initiative and innovation. Also involved in implementing several framework and cybersecurity strategy. And currently, I head the cybersecurity department for NPF Microfinance Bank in Nigeria, and also the data protection officer. So together, we'll be taking on this session. Thank you. So before we start, you know, there's a growing trend, which is ransomware. And it's a very key aspect in terms of how it affects critical business aspects. And before we look at that, there are analysis that shows that over 94% of ransomware attack do not recover their data, and 42% of those who pay ransom do not even get their data recovered. And also, when we say ransomware, I will put it in just two phrases. Digital kidnapping, that is how I will paraphrase it. So it's something we've been experiencing in the physical. When you kidnap someone and say, pay money, right? Kidnap someone and say, pay 10 million naira or 5 million shillings. Now, what happens here is this time you are not doing a physical kidnapping, but it's taking place in the what? In the digital space, where you have to pay ransom in form of crypto. So from that aspect, I will just call on Mr. Abbah to give us an intro of what ransomware is all about in terms of how it is being done.
Good afternoon. The ransomware attacks have gone through a process of evolution. In the last 30 years, it has grown more daring. The actors have become more daring and completely more sophisticated. Now, in 1989, when we had the first ransomware attack of the 8th Trojan, it used symmetric key. Now, we are seeing the use of more technically advanced cryptographic tools that make it extremely difficult for anyone to decipher or de-encrypt the information that these attackers go after. So with the advance in cryptography, we also see a serious advance in the type of skill set that the ransomware gangs and syndicates are into. There is also the issue of anonymity. Two issues bring this into clarity. The first one is that the gangs that are into malware criminal activities use the dark web to propagate their activities. They use it to advertise and they use it to provide support. Using the Tor browser makes it extremely difficult for law enforcement to be able to trace where these criminals are coming from. With the advance of cryptocurrency, we have seen that they have a means through which they can receive their proceeds of criminal activity without being able to trace easily by law enforcement. So if you take the mix of use of dark web and then the use of cryptocurrency, it gives them comfort that they are anonymous. Because they feel that they are more anonymous, so they are growing more daring daily. We have also seen a shift in the business model that they are using. Previously, it was just maybe spray and pray. They just target a random number of people and then send the malware to them. Now, we are seeing more targeted attacks, that they are using spear phishing techniques to target businesses that are doing well, enterprises that have high volume of transactions now are the target of these criminal activities. And these enterprises are targeted for a reason, because they have a lot of money at their disposal. If the criminals are able to take over their data, encrypt it, it's always a promise of high payout. So because this promise, the business model focus on big companies, high payout,
If you wanna,
and then the use of cryptocurrency that they can easily receive this money or launder it around. This has given them the incentive to really progress. We have also seen that these criminals now are democratizing the knowledge that is needed to conduct this kind of exploits. There is a rise in ransomware as a service, where one needs little or no coding skill to conduct these kind of exploits. We have seen that various forms of malware, ransomware are quite common. There is ranging from Ryuk to Maze that started double extortion, which is currently on the increase. Even cases of triple extortion, we are seeing it. And then the targets of these activities are companies that have a lot of clients. If a company maybe is into managed services or into supply chain, it's really a target for these malware, ransomware gangs, because they know that if they hit the company, they're able to compromise the systems, encrypt the data, in some instances even exfiltrate the data. If they put pressure on the company pays. If it doesn't pay, they can come back and threaten the company that they will leak the data they have exfiltrated. So all these type of things tend to be an incentive for the criminals to go into the activity, because they know certainly if they put the right type of pressure, they will get the right payback. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abbah. So basically, I think something very key you mentioned is ransomware as a service. Like you mentioned, so it has gone beyond being technical. So meaning with just a few dollars, someone can provide that service and the actor can have his way. So, and you also talked about the techniques being used. So on the light of that, His Excellency, I wanted to speak on looking at the various pattern and the methods. What should organizations do to protect their critical business aspect? Not from protection, but in terms of how they should have a kind of a procedure or structure around how they should manage this kind of situation.
If you would repeat the question again, please.
Okay. Just talk about the techniques. So I said, looking at it from the standpoint of what should be the role of the government, the private sector, in protecting against ransomware attack in the organization.
Okay. So the ransomware attack, as it is explained, the criminals, the cyber criminals, they target the key infrastructure of businesses. They encrypt it with their public key, holding the private key, and then ask for the ransom money to be paid through the cryptocurrency. And what should the private sector do to protect and hide their critical infrastructure from such kind of cyber criminals? They should follow and strictly follow the cyber security policy. They should have, entities should have the cyber security policy and also implement the cyber security standards in their organizations, including the procedures, detailed procedures to classify their key infrastructure and organizational assets, as well as they need to have the protection mechanism and have a duplicated backup mechanisms in order to recover which is out of their the network radar. Some backups can be in the network, but some should be outside the network. So the other key thing is organizations should run the security awareness programs to teach and make their employees aware of the phishing and those sort of emails and the links that can be used. And as I told you yesterday also, most of the African countries and organizations are using the pirate software. So using genuine licensed software is also very important. So running the awareness campaign and avoiding the human error would be one of the best things the organizations or the private sector should do. The other thing is that once this all is the preventive mechanism, but it still happens because, as it is said, the cybersecurity attacks are moving at a speed of light, and the preventive mechanism or the defensive mechanism is lagging behind. So it happens, and lots of billions of dollars are being lost. So to prevent, we need to capture the signature of whatever attack that happened through ransomware attack, and share the threat intelligence. The data should be shared so that it won't happen again on another institution. So there should be another mechanism to somehow manage and protect the same ransomware attacks to not happen again by collaborating with other institutions. As far as the private sector, I think they should do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. David, so looking at it from, he has talked about what the private sector should do, what the government should do. Now, from a bit of technical perspective, within an institution, what are some basic things an organization should put in place to protect against ransomware attack?
Yeah, so in terms of technical preventative measures, they say it's only a matter of time. Now, before you prevent something, you need to check how is it propagated.
Exactly.
We see the the biggest attack vector as it is right now is email, spear phishing campaigns, and stuff like that. We also have seen employees being incentivized either by competitors or the cyber criminals as a service. This flash drive will give you 2,000, 20,000 USD. Just plug it into the mainframe or somewhere, any server on your system. So number one is always hygiene, cyber hygiene. So make sure you have telemetry of all the endpoints. You know what endpoints you have and how they are configured. So standardizing configurations is a key aspect, and making sure you are checking for drift, which is key. The other one is also what was mentioned here yesterday, the separation of admin and local users. So that PAM infrastructure, for some malware and ransomware attack, they require to run in order to propagate. So even if your admin is targeted, they are not using the admin account to run on their machine. The other one is always just patching and making sure that you have everything on top. So, yeah.
Okay. And in addition, you know, there is a layer your conventional endpoint protection can also protect those various endpoints from ransomware attack. The use of SDR has become imperative, which is extended detection and response system that can detect the activity of ransomware within an endpoint. And when that happens, you can isolate that particular endpoint from the entire network to ensure it doesn't spread to other aspects of the network, based on the pattern that the various ransomware attacks use in infecting organizations' network, which is propagation and taking over the infrastructure. Okay, there's still another key aspect I just want us to look at. So this one, Mr. Solomon, I wanted to speak on this. Now, what type of collaboration do we need to ensure we protect against ransomware attack? You know, so many speakers have said so many things in different aspects, and everybody keeps talking about collaboration. So, and from what we have seen, what kind of collaboration do you think we need?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Ransomware attack is booming at a speed of light, and a single institution cannot protect it alone. So it is a shared responsibility to protect the cyber attacks together. And the collaboration mechanisms should go from strategic, tactical, and operational level in different aspects that we need to do the collaboration at a national, continental, regional, and international or global level, at institutional level, and even including the employees. So the area of collaboration could be working, you know, the best thing to protect oneself is having the technology ownership. The technology ownership could be collaborated through the research and development initiatives between the nations and even the private sector across the region. That the more the technology is owned, the more the protection will be. The other thing is having a common cyber governance structure and policies. So having a common cyber governance policies, standards, procedures, frameworks on different aspects could be one of the area to collaborate. The other thing is we need to have the audit and evaluation labs, as well as the digital forensic labs that we can share together in order to investigate the source of those cyber criminals. So such area could also be the area that we can collaborate on. The other collaboration is that every institution or business has its own SOC, Security Operation Centers. And at a national level, we have national CERTs and sectoral CERTs. And also, we need a regional level, continental level, and global CERTs and security operation centers, where we can share the threat intelligence on such kind of cyber attacks. And most importantly, it is very important to understand that the cyber threat or the ransomware attack or whatever cyber threat is not only for a single institution. It's not only targeting a single nation. It is a global threat. And we need to collaborate from that point of view on different aspects, both strategic, tactical, and operational level. Cooperation and collaboration is of paramount importance to safeguard our critical business infrastructure and assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want Mr. Abbah, looking at it from the law enforcement aspect, your role as a forensic expert, I want to look at now, how do we manage the issue of probably investigating issues around ransomware attack? Then how does the law enforcement agency come in to see how they can help reduce the kind of proliferation of the attacks happening within the various institutions? And probably some of the challenges you think borders around that. Thank you.
Now for the law enforcement, we are always playing a catch-up game with the cyber criminals. And sophisticated set of cyber criminals as ransomware gangs are even more difficult to go after. Like I said earlier, they advertise their activities in the dark web. To access the dark web, you use the Tor browser. And Tor browser adds several levels of anonymity to the connection. So as an investigator, if you are following that lead, it's extremely difficult to find the right evidence. The attack vectors, phishing emails. We all know you can spoof emails quite easily. They can compromise other systems and then use them as the source of these phishing emails. So at that level too, there's a lot of difficulty for you as an investigator if you're pursuing it. Now, like I said, we are playing catch-up. Many of us don't have the skill set to conduct malware analysis. When you conduct malware analysis, you can see where the command and control is. But many a times, the CNC server too, it could be part of a botnet somewhere. So that's another level of challenge. When they receive the proceeds of these criminal acts, is through cryptocurrency. And it is, though, as part of the law enforcement effort in a lot of countries, part of the FATF recommendation, exchanges are gradually compliant with the requirement that anybody that does business with them has to provide some KYC details. But if you follow the movement of the cryptocurrency from the victim, you see there are a lot of tricks along the way. You can use mixers that will completely obscure the movement of the cryptocurrency. So, in essence, law enforcement have a big challenge. But I'm not saying that the challenge is unsurmountable. Of course, in our case, we have built a lot of relationship with most of the exchanges that operate in Nigeria. So anytime we encounter a wallet that has featured in any time of criminal activity, not only relating to ransomware, we talk to them. There are tools that law enforcement agencies can buy. Chain analysis, analytic, but they cost a lot of money. And then the yearly license that we need to renew them. But not to actually deter us. If you put the right type of effort, there will be evidence somewhere that you can actually look at. But looking at ransomware in particular, seeing it as the global challenge that it is, you will know that it's a big problem for law enforcement agencies. Of course, we have to collaborate. One of the biggest avenues that we have to overcome these type of challenges is to build relationship locally, across the region, and internationally. If your agency doesn't have the capability to deal with it, at least if you have other well-funded and technically capable law enforcement agencies, they can provide support to your countries from across other jurisdictions. Of course, locally too, we can look at ways of harnessing the skills that we have around. That means multi-stakeholder collaboration between law enforcement, the forensic services companies in the country. I'm certain if they put their heads together, a solution to mitigate some of these risks will be found. But in a simple term, it's really a big challenge, and we have to really commit as law enforcement officers to developing our own skills personally, because many a times budget is a challenge, developing our own skills personally to see how we can combat these type of threats that are continuously on the increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. David, are there probably, let's look at, we've already talked about some things, Mr. Solomon mentioned some things at various levels. Now, I want to ask a big question. Should organization pay ransom when there's a ransomware attack or not? And if they should, why? It's interesting. I know this is a big question in everyone's mind.
It's a difficult question, but remember, risk belongs to the business. So what Thelma said is you need to have a playbook. This is going to happen for sure. When it happens, what will you do? So prepare now for that eventuality, so that now when you get hit or something happens to you, you already have your own process, you already have what to do, how to communicate. Remember, like many have said here, budgets are a problem. Nobody will be able to have all the money that they want to invest in all of these tools that you hear keep getting mentioned. But everybody can do a backup. Everybody can ensure every endpoint has at least some patches. Everybody can ensure at least you have an asset register, so you know where all your valuable things are. So those are the very basics. So in terms of paying, if you have those things, the decision becomes very easy. You just quantify it. So absolutely not. In my case, I don't think it's right, because now you are monetizing and fueling the fun of this industry. Remember, the money that you give will be used to attack you tomorrow. Plus, remember the statistics, 40% of, is it 40%? More than, just under 40% of people who pay ransom are actually get back their data. They already have a backdoor inside your system. They've been there, is it 200 days is the statistic? So you will pay today, tomorrow they will come back with something else. So just have the basics.
Okay, thank you. I think two things said is, first, there should be a strategy around it. Within the strategy, the framework and policy of what should be done that we define. And you mentioned some basic things that every institution must do. And based on that, when there's an attack, you do a risk analysis to determine, so what is the cost of what I'm losing against what I'm paying. So based on that, if probably the ransom being demanded is, okay, say something.
If I may just chip in, the point he mentioned is really valid. Depending upon the risk appetite of the company can decide whether to pay or not. But some of the ransomware gangs have taken this into cognizance in their business model. If they attack you and then you pay up, they can provide consultancy service as to how you can strengthen your defenses so that you don't fall victim to these type of crimes again. You know, you mentioned the issue of risk. If you pay up now, the next time you may fall victim. So they have, as part of their business model, they have taken this into account and they are providing consultancy service as how to build defense against further attacks.
That's interesting.
It's a whole industry. It's a whole industry. I think it was mentioned in the Google report that if it was a country, cybercrime is now the third biggest economy in the world. It's about, is it 6 trillion USD now?
Yes, the industry is, I think, is one of the biggest globally now. Mr. Solomon, may I say something?
Yeah, paying or not is actually, there is no yes or no answer for this question. Because companies, when they have the ransomware attack, even if they pay to the cyber criminals, they don't know that, or they are not sure that they will get their data back. That is one big problem. If they don't pay, the cyber criminals can expose their corporate data online. So there is a very big dilemma in paying or not, and it makes the organizations in a corner to be in doubt. I remember one cyber attack, ransomware attack on US gas pipeline, which is 5,000 miles long. And the US government couldn't recover the data, you know. This ransomware attack, they are using the cryptography, and which makes it very difficult to decrypt the data back. So US is one of the leading state that is technologically advanced, and the skill set is very plenty, but the US government was unable to decrypt and hold back its data and forced to pay to the ransomware, the cyber criminals. So it depends actually. What kind of data are they holding off, and what is your capability to recover it back, even if you can recover it from backup, if it is on the hands of the cyber criminals, what kind of impact will it bring to the business if the data will be exposed? So it depends. There is no yes or no for this question.
Okay, thank you. So before we go to the Q&A session, statistics, 94% of ransomware attack are targeted at data backup, while 32% of organizations that paid ransom never got their data back. So, like you mentioned, it makes it very difficult to take a decision there. So, questions from the audience?
All right. Do we have any questions? And of course, I would like a microphone to be given. I I am seeing one here. How many questions do we have so that we can take them all at once? Yeah, sorry. Hey, the color of your hand is blending with. Oh yes, thank you, thank you. So let's start from this side because this was the first. Okay, all right, okay. Ladies first.
Thank you, appreciate it. My question is for Mr. Abbah. We like the work that you're doing in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. From a fraud perspective, have you defined any benchmarks that would help private sector define risk appetite statements, especially of a cybercrime nature?
I really don't get the question because of the echo.
Sorry.
I really don't get your question because of the echo.
Sorry, I'll be a bit more concise. My question is directed to you. From an Economics and Financial Crimes Commission, have you defined any guidance or benchmark frameworks that would help private sector define risk appetite statements on fraud propagated by cybercrime?
All right, you got the question?
Yeah, I think she's talking about whether we have some guidelines for the private sector on how to handle cybercrimes or this ransomware? Benchmarks, okay.
That works.
Now,
right.
If I may answer the question.
Yes.
The EFCC is not really a regulatory agency. So as such, we don't set the benchmark. But for the finance sector in Nigeria, there is the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that regulates it. If there are businesses that are into investment, there's a Security and Exchange Commission. So if for all other companies that deal in IT, there's the NIDA, the Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency. So they have their own regulators. But in our case, all we can and always do is to advise them as to what they should do to protect themselves. We do have a lot of opportunities to interact with them. Many times when they bring up complaints to them, we talk to their compliance officers, the chief internal auditors, chief information officers. We interact with them. We give them our own peace of mind as to exactly this type of fraud. This is what happened, and these are the areas that you really, really need to pay more attention. But sometimes you find that there are, some of them are just outright careless. A case in mind, a particular company has it's a fintech company, it has a wallet. In that wallet, there's about 100 million naira inside. They have left that money for quite some time, they haven't touched it. And all of a sudden, they received an alert that the account is depleted and they need to refund it. Without actually checking to see what happened to this 100 million, they sent another 100 million. Not knowing that cyber criminals took the first 100 million and the second 100 million they sent, the guys began to wipe it too. So you can see, when we come around this type of issues, we advise them. It's up to them whether they want to heed to our advice or not. Our only issue is the law. What does it say? If we find them complicit, we proceed against them. Thank you.
So in addition, for that, like you mentioned, the CBN, for example, came up with a guideline, the risk-based cybersecurity framework for all financial institutions to adopt. Within that framework, they looked at the different aspects of the financial sector, what they should do at their network, what they should do to their endpoint, the various frameworks they should put in place, system they must put in place to ensure they guide against the issue of ransomware, issue of around fraud. That is to ensure that the financial institution operates at a minimum level in terms of security. I think we have that in Nigeria. And it's a new regulation for the MFI, but for the other commercial banks, they are already operating in that level.
Thank you very much. Next question was here. Thank you.
My question goes to Mr. Abbah, Mr. Soka. If cyber war occurs in the cyberspace, then would our economy fall into a depression that would adversely affect our future?
Would you like him to repeat the question again?
Yeah, the voice
All right.
is...
Come again, but give it some more power.
If a cyber war occurs in the cyberspace, then would our economy fall into a depression?
Can you just hand it over to him? Sorry, you have it written, right? It's written, the question. Can you hand it over to him so he can just read it? It's a lot easier.
All right, as he does that, any other question? Because I want to wrap it up. Allow me to take the, oh, we have two. All right. I read it, huh? You can ask your question.
Okay. Should I ask or he wants to ask?
Yeah, let him ask and then you ask.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My name is Supriyo, and I would like to know, I'd like to try to tell you the real scenario. Say there are 8 accounts which has been hacked, and that account was debited. 8 accounts were debited, and it transferred to 10 different accounts in the same bank. And from there, the money was transferred to different account through M-Pesa and online banking, and so many ways. So how to investigate that and find out the real cause?
No, I think in this type of situation, we have encountered these type of situations a lot. In all these type of investigations, you have basically two methodologies. The first one is how the money was moved out of the account. An instruction must have been sent. Was this sent electronically? Who were the people that authorized it? So there is a lot of information within the IT infrastructure of the company, of the bank, or the entity that the money moved out of, that you can look for evidence as to who played a part in it. The next approach is to follow the money. Because the money has moved through several stages, it may look stressful and tiring. But as an investigator, one of the qualities of a good investigator is to persevere. You have to have patience and perseverance. So you have to follow all these transactions, and then at the same time, you are looking for what is the common denominator among them. Because at the end of it all, the criminal is interested in the money. So as the money moves around, the end point is that the money should get to him. So if you diligently follow up this money, make several arrests as possible, make several interviews as possible, it is tiring. I am currently handling a case in which a bank in Nigeria was defrauded the sum of, from several bank accounts, over 3 billion naira was moved. And the spread of the money is so wide that my team is even getting lost. Because from 3 billion, they break it down into small pieces. Some transactions are 6 million, some 200 million, some 300 million. And then sometimes you find the money moving to POS operators. So it's really a challenge, but you have to persevere. And then one thing that is very important is that this type of crimes, they do not take place in isolation. If you have had an interaction with a member of syndicate that is into compromising banks, wherever he is, reach out to the person. There is knowledge in the street that will tell you, so hit on this bank. This is the syndicate that did it. So in our case, we have relied on our street knowledge and as well our investigative techniques, and we are making serious progress. We have even seen instances in which money goes to Dubai. They receive Dubai currency, and then in Dubai, they hand it to some other person and they transfer naira to Nigeria. You can see they go through a lot of length to ensure that the footprint of the money is lost. But like I said, persevere, patiently follow up, you will get something. Thank you.
You can respond to that question?
Yeah.
And then this will be the final question of the day, kindly. Thank you.
The question says that if the cyber warfare happens in cyberspace, will it affect our economy? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the cyber warfare, there is a party that targets a certain thing and make an attack, right? So whatever it attacks will have its own consequences. And those cyber criminals, they target, let's say if they target M-Pesa. M-Pesa, yesterday the presenter from, the speaker from Ministry of ICT said that it is our critical infrastructure. If the cyber attack happens or targeted M-Pesa and made it not work, for example, let's say for a week, what kind of impact it will bring on the corporation? It will be associated with the financial aspect. So it's not only financial. How many lives are transacting on M-Pesa? How many businesses are running on M-Pesa? How many people are paying their daily necessities, buying and selling on this M-Pesa? This all lives will be affected. So how long will it hold on to M-Pesa determines what kind of impact it will bring. The other impact from cyber warfare is I think I presented yesterday is about information warfare. It can even cripple the nation, right? So what is the target matters, and that target has its own consequences if it is attacked. For example, as I told you earlier, in USA, the gas pipeline was attacked by ransomware. What value is that pipeline bringing? Everybody cooks, or lots of industries are running on the gas, right? So everything that is connected or linked to the target infrastructure or asset will be affected directly or indirectly, which will have a consequence of economic, social, political, and the multi-diverse impacts depending on whatever the target would be.
Okay, thank you. The last question.
All right, thank you. Let's have the final questions, please, and we bring this panel discussion to a close.
Charles Kisaka from Crerasters. My question goes to David. As a major industry player in the country in regards to data protection and cyber security, is there a deliberate effort to have, in particular, the private sector understand that there's a huge risk there and a way of which we can have a playbook, both reactive and preventive?
Okay, I think you're talking about DPA. There is a new office of the Data Protection Commissioner, which is now charged with protecting citizen privacy and data. So they've come up with not only guidelines, they will be rolling out. I think there is movement about rolling out a lot of awareness campaigns on that. So that will be targeted at the citizens. If you look at the sectoral regulators, if it is CBK, TESPOC, and the others, they have all come into picking the Data Protection Act and trying to distill it to the various sectors. So each sector will have their own outputs in terms of user education and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's up to you, really. Your privacy is your responsibility, always. So that's how I can end that.
Okay, thank you very much. So in 30 seconds, your parting word, starting from Mr. David. Final word.
I had nothing to add.
Okay. Mr. Abbah?
Well, in 30 seconds is so short. Just a recap of some of the safeguards that our colleagues here have mentioned. Regular and consistent backup, and store them in different locations. Apply patch as soon as it is out. User awareness training against phishing and social engineering. And then the endpoint protection and anti-phishing. You have to, like the SDR that he mentioned, you have to look at the one that suits your environment and make sure that you deploy it. It's very important too, zero trust security policy. Ensure that your network is segmented so that if the ransomware gang is able to take one component of it, it doesn't extend to other components or to your clients. Thank you.
And also have a proper policy for bring your own device. If organizations allow the employees to bring their own device into their network, there should be a proper policy, regulation, and guidelines to utilize their own devices for the corporate businesses. Just to add one.
Okay, in conclusion, the best way to avoid a ransomware attack is to ensure you don't have one. And if there is any, there should be a strategy around to ensure that there is minimum downtime in terms of service that will be affected. And on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to my esteemed panelists for a wonderful session, and also the organizers of this occasion for putting this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.